Hey everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel, Nightmares in the Dice Realm. I'm Johnny. I'm going to be hosting a big part of our stuff along with my wife, Romy.
Hi guys.
We will be playing all kinds of board games that involve dice, of course, from H.P. Lovecraft and all of his gambit of games that have been created with their main star Cthulhu. If you want to show them the chalice that we got.
Pretty cool chalice.
And we will also be displaying some other games like maybe Skyrim, the board game, which we've played, Mysterium as well, D&D, the board games, not the campaign version, although I do DM, but that will be not included in this channel. So we're going to start off our series in this new channel with Arkham Horror, which is one of our favorite games from the H.P. Lovecraft set of games. He's got a bunch, including Eldritch Horror, Mansions of Madness, and the living card game. There's a couple of one-offs here and there too that we've even seen.
Like specifically Cthulhu games that has also been created recently. So yeah, it's just really, really interesting games overall. Very intricate games.
Yes, very intricate games. We love the whole mystery and in-depth that you get with these games and the way that they kind of draw you in with their theming and how intricate they are to play, because we've went through the rule books here. I pull these out often just to double verify what's going on, because the rules do get so intricate. We've got all of them here from the different expansions and stuff. So for Arkham Horror, we've got the base game over there. Romy can point that one out.
This is the base game.
And then you can buy the expansions, which we've got Dead of Night, we've got Underdark Waters, and then we've also got Secrets of the Order expansion. So those are the 3 expansions we have. I believe there's 2 more expansions for this one that are not being made anymore.
Yes, that's correct. And it's really hard to find. So
yes.
You can still find it, but it's really pricey because it's so limited.
So we are still trying to get our hands on those. Hopefully we'll be able to get there one day and get those. And then also there's a company called Broken Token that makes carriers for all this, like a way to easily pack it away and do all of that stuff, which we have the full set for Eldritch Horror because we have all those expansions, and it's got a big box of stuff. We have not bought it yet for this game, but it is on the purchase list as well to get the Broken Token thing that holds all of our stuff together nice and neatly. Right now we pack it away with Ziplocs just to keep everything separate. And in this video, guys, we're just going to go over the components of the game, what aspects there are to it, and then I think we're going to finish up with going over some of our favorite characters for this version of H.P. Lovecraft games, because these characters do play across all versions of the game, but we like certain ones in certain sets. So
each of us have our favorites as well that we like to play.
Yes. She's got her favorites that she really enjoys, and then I've got mine that I like, and I question her, her stuff on what she plays, and sometimes I don't get. I've tried playing those characters, doesn't fit my play style.
Yeah. I wanted to mention as well, before we forget, that you can get this book as well.
Yes.
That talks about all the backstories of each of the investigators, and there's quite a few investigators in this game. So I would really recommend getting this book if you're interested in just learning more about each of the characters and everything. And it's got like really nice art in it as well. But each character is about 2 to 3 pages worth of backstory. So it's really, really interesting if you are into Lovecraft stories and such.
Yep. And as we all know, like I pointed out earlier, Cthulhu is H.P. Lovecraft's biggest villain that he's created, and that almost everyone knows some form of Cthulhu. So we are going to start out with him as our Ancient One, which is you pick an Ancient One and you got a stack of them here to go through that you try to defeat in the game as you play it. And with him, when you come across, we've got mythos tokens that are back here. Romy can hold up maybe a couple of them to show you guys those. So you got some mythos tokens that go in there and some markers. There's some markers mixed in there that you put on the board. But those mythos tokens we put inside our chalice to draw from. And then if you get the reckoning one, if she can find it quickly. So if you were to draw this token here, which is a reckoning effect, certain cards within the game have that effect on it, and so does the ancient one a lot of the times. And for Cthulhu's, it's each investigator suffers horror equal to the amount of doom in their space. So when when your character is in a space on a board tile, and you've got these tokens here, which are your doom tokens, if you've got one of those, then you will suffer what is called horror, which are these blue tokens here, in damage or whatever. Your character has a certain set of that, so each one will kind of explain that a little bit more, but that's what he does when that reckoning effect comes up.
And also with the mythos tokens, each of the Ancient One cards will have how you need to set that up into the mythos cup. So it will be different every time with every mystery that you face. Every Ancient One is different when it comes to the mythos amount of tokens that go in the cup, as well as which ones exactly have to go in there. So that'll differ. And then what you will do is, once it is in the cup, when it comes to the mythos phase, which is one of the phases that we'll talk about later, you have to randomly just pick one out of the cup and then do that effect of the token.
Yep, and when we actually do the setup and gameplay, that'll get explained a little bit more. In this first video, like I said, we're just going to show you all the components, introduce ourselves, and see how this goes. So when we get up to, in this series, this will be like a video series, where next we're going to show setup, and then after that we'll play a game as well, so you all can follow along with us. And then, like she was saying, on the back side of the Ancient One card, it has our setup on how we set up the tiles, all the mythos tokens, as she was saying, and then also our monster deck gets laid out, and also the codex. So with certain things like the components within the game, like I said, you've got your characters. You get certain cards with those characters. Each one has 3, and usually it tells you 1, and then you get to choose between the remaining 2 for most of the characters. There are some characters in here where you do get to use all 3 cards. I know of one, I just don't remember which character it was.
There's not a lot of characters that you have all 3 cards that you get to keep. Most of the time they tell you you can only choose 2.
Yes.
But there is 1 or 2 characters that does have that.
Yep.
Which is really nice.
And so with that, there's also these cards here, which these ones are basically the scenario cards. So this here, you can tell that, I will scoot up here for you guys. You can tell that by this icon here in the corner where it's got a search symbol, and then also at the bottom of the card it will be the name of the scenario you're working on. So that's how you know to find all the cards within that deck, and you will play those cards for that, because there's all different types here. You've got East Town, French Hill, South Side, North Side. There's all kinds of them, and they all correlate to the tiles that you end up placing out and playing with, depending on what the scenario sheet sets up with. So we will go into more detail of that when we do the setup of it. So you got those kind. Then you also have, it looks like very much the same type of cards. Again, on the back side, you've got Rivertown, Merchant District here, and then this one's downtown. So you got each one for each neighborhood, and you put those down, and then you draw those when you get like into a certain part of the game, and then depending on what space you're on, you've got to do what's on that card. So again, that will be explained more later once we actually get into gameplay. But that's why I wanted to show that there are 2 separate kind of cards. Even though they look similar, they're different in aspects of the game that you're playing. So, which part of the game you're playing.
And then, as he was mentioning as well, the tiles have the name of the area on it, and then there's also different names, 3 different names on each tile of like sub areas underneath the main area here. There's lines on it. That means basically your character can only be in one area at a time within this tile, and then they will do all the effects in that area specifically when there's different phases of the game. So in each area as well has like little symbols on it. So it'll basically, if you land on here, there's different things that you can get during the encounter phase, which is one of the phases. If you have these symbols, particular symbols on your area, on your space that you are located. Did you want to add something to that?
These, it was, as she was talking about it, it came to me. These are referred to as neighborhoods, and then you've got sections within that neighborhood. Like for Innsmouth Shore, you have Falcon Point, Gilman House, and Marsh Refinery. So those are areas within the neighborhood. These are referred to as neighborhoods here. And then we end up connecting those together with these connecting pieces, which you can have a bridge, and this is also a portal, depending on the scenario.
There's a railway as well, and like a sign.
There's a street one, or a nature or forest one, and then a street lamp, and these are referred to as streets. And there are certain cards, like I said earlier, when you're in like Innsmouth Shore and you draw a card for that to do the, it's not the reckoning phase, it's the encounter phase. When you're in the encounter phase, you draw one of these cards. If you're like in Gilman House on Innsmouth Shore, you would go to the Innsmouth Shore deck and draw it and read from the Gilman House part of that card. But the streets also have one, so depending on what type of street you're on, if you're on an actual street, which the street lamp, or the nature one, or a portal, or a bridge, you would read that particular portion of the card. And
there's also certain mysteries where you will have special tokens that'll link into the map as well, and that's special areas that you don't have normally in every situation and every mystery. So then those ones will have to be added as well. So that's another thing. And then we also have that tile, which it's also for special situations in different mysteries, where you have to pass through either to the underworld by using a portal, and it moves around the board as well. So it doesn't just stay stationary in one place.
Yep, okay, so a little bit more about some of the cards that we have. So like for the Cthulhu one, which is called Echoes of the Deep, I've already pulled out those cards here for all of our neighborhoods and everything that we're going to need. This is going to be called the Encounter deck, and it'll refer to the Encounter deck when you have to draw. And that Encounter deck gets placed into this holder here, which you get with the base game. And you've got, when it goes in there and you have to pick for a clue or a gate burst. You have to choose from the front, and if it's a doom, then you have to choose from the back and do certain things depending on that. And then you shuffle it on certain things and whatnot, but that's where that comes into play. And then you have an archive deck, which you've got all of these archive cards. Again, I'll kind of come up close for you guys there. And then they look like this. They look like they've got a headline on them. Or these aren't the archive, these are the headline cards. Sorry, the headline cards. They've got certain things on them, certain aspects of them that say certain things. So those, you got quite a few of them from all the expansions that we've gotten. It's added to it. You draw these with during the Mythos phase, when you draw this Mythos token, you get that. And then, like I said, way you normally set it up, most of them, actually all of the ancient ones that I've come across so far, have said that you do 11 cards total that you draw, and then you got that deck set aside, and that's what you use. You don't use all the cards. So you shuffle this, draw 11 random cards, and then shuffle that, and then put that down. And then you go through those throughout the game. You have a codex here, which is this giant stack of cards. You got 1 through 165 at the moment. They range from all kinds of different cards, but they are what you're trying to accomplish, or if you get into trouble, they determine that too. So they end up showing you whether you win or lose the game. It's all based on here. You start out with this scenario sheet, and it walks you through and tells you which cards to add to the codex, and then depending on that card, it will tell you which card to draw next, and so on if you've completed the objective. Again, be more in that in the later episodes when we do it. So
yeah, this game is quite intricate and got a lot of components to it, so it's going to take a little bit to go through everything and to explain everything fully. So there's also these different skills, improvement tokens that each of the players or investigators can obtain. So you do that as well by going into the different neighborhood spaces that have these tokens. So then you know that area will help you improve that, hopefully during an encounter phase. So you have, with each investigator, you have lore, which is like a little book, and that is especially very useful when you're doing spells, because you would need quite a bit of lore to be successful when you're spell casting.
yes.
So that is that improvement token. Then we have influence. That is good when you've got to get yourself out of sticky situations. You have to convince people that you're innocent or whatever you may do during that time.
But
if your influence is high, then at least you can get through that situation successfully.
And when the test comes up for it, what do you normally do for those tests if you, like, your character has 2 observation and you've got an observation improvement token? How do they end up winning? So that would be by doing what?
So with that, if you are testing for your observation, which is the little eye token, so with that, you will check on your character card. It shows like an observation token over here, and it shows the number 3 next to it. So each character has a different number there, because each character's abilities is different, how strong they are with it or how weak they are with it. So in this case, you would throw 3 dice, and depending on which successes you get, which normally successes is 5s or 6s. So if you get, say, like 1 success there, you get either a 5 or a 6, then you've passed the test.
Yep.
But it also depends. If you're fighting a monster, then that changes it a little bit. Then it
Sometimes
depends.
you require
Sometimes
2.
you require more successes.
Yep.
So other than the observation, another one that's really important is your will. So that's like a little head. That's
like a brain.
Like a brain.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's very important to have good will, especially when you're fighting monsters. Because a lot of the times if your will is not good as an investigator, then you're going to struggle to defeat that monster. And then lastly we have strength. So that is obviously also very important if you're trying to fight monsters and defeat them. So overall, just improving your strength, if you don't have good strength, that's a really good thing to do as well. So that's just some of the tokens that investigators can obtain throughout the game to improve their abilities.
Yeah, so you got all the improvement tokens there, and you can improve any one of your skills, lore, influence, observation, strength, and will, like she was saying. They're all listed on your player card sheet as well.
Do you want to go through the player card sheet and just show them that part as well? So
with the player card sheet, you get, the name of your character, what happened, that you've got your, depending on which character you have, they each have different write-ups here that you got kind of abilities, I would say. Like he's got dogged. This is Mark Harrigan. He's one of my favorite characters because he can fight multiple times. Usually you can only do 1 action 1 time. You get 2 actions per round, and you can usually only do each of them once. Move, fight, gain resources, which is the money, And yeah, the player actions you can see on the card here. You do get these cards.
So it actually guides you through all these actions that you can take during your turn.
So he's got different abilities. Each character has their own set of abilities that they can do. And then also in that text box, it tells you your focus limit. So the focus would be these improvement tokens, and his limit is 1. So he can only get 1 improvement token. And that's something unique to this game. With the other games, usually they don't limit you. And I know with Eldritch Horror, they also have negative improvement tokens. So you can go down as well. But in Arkham Horror, you only go up. And so with that, his limit's 1. You can get cards sometimes that says you can exceed your focus limit and still gain something. It all depends from time to time. But he's got 8 health and 4 sanity. So 4 of the brain and 8 of those. So if he's fighting something, yeah, the hearts is your health. So if you're fighting something, you can take up to 8 hits, and then you can get 4 sanity or horror. If you take horror damage, that would affect your sanity because basically you're getting scared to death. So his sanity's kind of low, but I still like him because of the fighting aspect. He's usually good when I have to do a lot of fighting and stuff. If I remember what Cthulhu's about, if we have to fight a lot or if he deals a lot of horror, my character may end up dying quickly. We'll see. You learn that as you kind of play and whatnot. Some of the other characters, like Zoe, who's another one I like, she's got 5 health and 7 sanity, so she kind of flip-flops differently. So it all depends on your style of play. And you can think of this if you're kind of like an old-school video game player. This is your health and your mana. Stuff kind of like that is what it references to. So, and then on the back of the card, it gives you kind of a small story about the soldier and like his beginnings and stuff, and then what type of primary role he has. Some of them have a secondary role as well, which he's a guardian, which means it's his responsibility to protect his fellow investigators. That's what he's supposed to be doing throughout the game. And you can play one character, or sometimes we'll play 2 characters each, so that we can, have more of a variety, different chance. We try and take on the persona of each character. So when it's that character's turn, I got to think like Mark Harrigan, what would he do? And if I was playing as Zoe, I would think what does she do? And so I try to envelop each characteristic of those when I'm playing that one. But it gives us a little bit more playability since it's usually just the 2 of us for the most part.
But it does get harder if you're more investigators in the game. It does get harder when you have to do the different tasks throughout the game as well.
Yep. And so that's kind of like a brief overview of the character sheets. And again, we'll go over these a little bit more in depth when we do setup, and because there's some of the guide in the setup, and then of course as we play, you'll kind of get a feel of the characters.
And as he mentioned before as well, each character will have their own set of cards as well that you get with your character, and normally it will tell you how many of the cards your character can keep.
Yes.
So you have to sometimes choose. Like this character, which is one of my favorite characters to play, he can keep most of the cards, so you don't have to choose just 2. So that makes it really nice. And also the reason why is because he's cursed, which means if you're cursed, only 6s count as successes, which makes it a little bit harder to get a success.
A lot harder.
But his health and his sanity is really good, which is something that I always tend to look at with my characters that I play with. I don't like them to run out of health and sanity very quickly. And I also look at their strengths, and he's got quite a lot of strengths, and he can improve skills like all the time, so which is really nice with him. So even though he's cursed, you can roll a lot more dice because he's got so many higher numbers and such with each of his skills.
But like I said, it depends on your playstyle. I've played with him and I died quick. She plays with him and rocks. I don't know how. It's just,
so I think
don't
it's
get
just depending on...
Yeah, it depends on your playstyle.
Your favorite character and your playstyle.
Yeah, your playstyle determines a lot of that, I think.
And then each of your characters will have a little icon like this with their picture on it, and it's like on a stand.
Yep.
And that's how you see where your character is and everything on the board. And you keep track of where he's going to and everything.
So that's how you keep track of your characters.
And then we have special cards as well. Do you want to show them that?
There's special cards, so when you do these encounter cards, some of them will give you a reward, and like the name will be in all bold letters and usually all capitalized. That means it comes from this special deck. It's a really special card, which is really usually an improvement. There are some negative cards in here that you don't want, but most of them are positive. So they come with this nice star background orange card, and then you've got the front of the card that tells you like what it is, what it does. So this is the world. It's a curio item, which it refers to what type of item. Sometimes it says grab a curio item or a weapon or something like that, or a magic item. And then it's like after you perform a move action, if you moved more than 2 spaces, you may focus one skill of your choice. So if you have, there's a character in here called Rita. Usually that's one of her favorites. She's not going to go over that one this time. But Rita can move 3 spaces. She can do that, and also the mailman, which is I think new in this one, or is
Yes.
mailman in this one?
Because it
Yeah.
also depends if your character has a vehicle. Like this one,
Oh,
which
yeah,
is one of
Tommy.
my favorites
Yep.
as well. He has a motorcycle, so normally he can move more spaces as well.
Yep.
Because of this motorcycle that he has.
So if you end up moving more than that, then you can improve one of your focus or improvement tokens. Improvement tokens is from Eldritch. That's why we call them that. That was the first game we got, which was Eldritch, and then we fell in love with that and got the rest of H.P. Lovecraft series. Just tells you how much we fell in love with it.
Do you want to show them as well what the investigator card looks like up close?
Yep, I can show you guys up close kind of what one of them looks like. This would be the front of the card, and then this would be the back of the card. So,
and it'll also tell you at the back of the card which items you have to collect when you set up for your investigator. So each investigator will have a different item that you have to collect beforehand when you start, and some of them will also start with like money, which is this is the little money tokens that we have.
referred to as resources.
Yes, it's really good to collect as much money as you can throughout the game as well, because it does come in handy when you have encounter phases, and they say if you pay $1, you will get 3 health or something.
Yes.
By eating pie or whatever it may be. So it is really helpful just to have it when you need it. But there has been games that we didn't really use the money that much at all. So it just depends on the mystery, but I would say rather have the money in case you need it than not having it at all. And there is a character as well, one of the investigators that is a millionaire. So with him, obviously the money just really flows in quite a bit throughout his turns. So if you prefer to be able to just be able to buy whatever you want, then that would be a good character to play with.
I play with him a couple of times. He's really cool. I think it's like a trust fund that you get. It's like if you don't have a certain amount of money, you get $3, and so it kind of helps out because you can buy weapons, you can buy health, you can buy sanity, depending on certain aspects of it.
There's different deck here as well called the condition cards. So I just wanted to go through that as well. So throughout the game, certain cards could come up that you receive due to certain actions that you do, or certain encounters. Something might happen to you that you either become cursed or you can become blessed. When you are blessed, for example, you get this card, and that would be that a 4, 5, and a 6 is successes instead of just a 5 and a 6, which is a really nice card to get. So you always want to try and get a bless wherever you can. And another condition would be, for example, curse, which I mentioned before, and that one would be that you can only roll 6s as successes. So that one is obviously one that you would want to try and avoid wherever you can. So those are just some of the conditions that you can get. There's also a wanted condition, tainted, a dark pact. Sometimes what happens if you're like in a situation, they give you the option to get a dark pact, which is normally a little bit more dangerous than any other agreement because you don't know what's going to happen to you. Sometimes it might cause you to die. So you have to be really careful with the dark pact, but sometimes you just have to risk it for the biscuit and just take the dark pact and hope for the best. So that's just some of the conditions. There's quite a few conditions in this game, so I just wanted to make you aware of that. And you can get the condition and then get rid of it somehow as well. Some of them you can't get rid of, but there is some that you can get rid of, which is really good.
Yeah, like the blessed, you can lose if you get cursed. It'll say if you're blessed, you just lose blessed instead of getting cursed, because cursed is the opposite of blessed. And same thing with, I think on this one, yeah, if you would become cursed, discard this card instead. And then on the cursed one, if you would become blessed, discard this card instead. So that's one way you would get rid of it. Another way for the cursed is if you pass one of the tests, because you can only roll 6s, so it's a lot harder. But if you pass a test, you can get rid of your cursed in this one. So, and then this one, after you fail a test, you discard this card. So if you roll all 1s and 2s and 3s, and you don't pass your test, you have to get rid of your blessed as well. So that's one of the ways to get rid of blessed and cursed in this game. And then also, like I was mentioning earlier, and Romy was mentioning, that depending on the tile you're on, you can sometimes get item cards, which are these green ones with the gun and the key on it. So show you a close-up of that, and one of those there, just like the orange cards that we showed earlier, they are certain items that give you either pluses for strength when you're fighting, if you get like a weapon. Some of them, like this cigarette case, you get add one to the result of one of your die. So if you don't have blessed and you roll a 4, you can add 1, so it'd be 5, so it would be a success then. So you can do that with the lucky cigarette case if you had that when resolving one of your tests. There's a number of cards in here, do all kinds of different stuff.
And it's nice to get as many items as you possibly can, because
Yes.
they really do help you, and some of them actually has health on it as well, so that's another
Yeah.
thing. I'll just show you this, for example. So some of the cards actually, like ally cards
Like
as
the
well,
ally cards
which
here.
he's going to talk about as well.
There.
Some of the ally cards that you can get, which is really nice to have as well, because it really helps you. It will have like a little health symbol here and a sanity symbol. So in this case, there's 2 health here, 3 sanity. So if you take damage, like say you take a hit of 1 health that you're losing, you can actually put it on this card. So it's not directly taking from your health. Your ally is taking the hit
Yes.
for you. But you must just make sure that the sanity and the health doesn't run out on this card. You don't want to max it out, because otherwise you lose the card. So it's important to keep track of how much sanity and health you're actually putting on here as well.
Yep. And there are certain cards that will remove that damage or sanity to your allies. It'll specifically say your allies, and so you can remove that. Otherwise, you can't get rid of it. So if you get a card that says you can heal 3, you can't heal this card 3. You can only heal yourself.
Yeah.
But if you get a card that says you can do it on your ally, then that's when you can heal your ally. And then with the ally cards, they give you abilities or bonuses as well. So like this one, which is Grace Beecham, she's a paranormal detective, and she gives you +2 lore as part of a ward action. So the ward action is where you roll to try and get rid of the doom on a space that you're on. So if you had 2 and you rolled for your ward and you got 2 successes, you can remove both of those doom from that space.
And that is something you would want to do. Like, doom is a bad thing. So
Yes.
you need to try and remove doom wherever you see it, because this can accumulate, and eventually there's like so much doom everywhere if you don't take care of it.
Yeah.
And then that'll basically eventually
You die horribly.
speed up the mystery so quickly, and the
Yeah.
ancient one awakens, and your mission is to try and not get the ancient one to wake up.
Yeah, try and
because
defeat it before it does.
Basically try and defeat it before it wakes up. Because once it's awake, you can still defeat it, but it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
And normally by taking control of the doom, just basically making sure that you eliminate that as much as possible, and also keeping like certain monsters that's really dangerous for the mission, those ones under control as well. By defeating them, that'll help as well. You don't have to defeat all monsters necessarily, because you've got to try and do what the codex cards say, because that's the main thing. Stay on track, try and finish the mystery as much as possible, and go in the direction that you need to be going, because sometimes it's really easy with this game to go off track and have squirrel moments and basically go off and, oh, I want to do this now, because there's so many different little things you can do. and improve your character and all kinds of things. So it can get very easy to get distracted
Yes.
and not stay on course, and then like sooner than later, then you realize, okay, actually now we're at the end and I didn't do what I needed to do and it's too late now.
Yeah.
So it can get like that very quick. So
Yep. And so with that, the purple cards are your spell cards. So these are the ones that you would draw if you were told to get a spell of some type. And so you've got the Beast Within. It's an incantation. When you perform an attack action, you may test your lore instead of your strength. Usually you test your strength when you're doing an attack action. With this one, you would test your lore. So it'd be good for a spellcaster who has low strength but high lore. So that would be a good card for them. And there's a number of different spells in here that do all kinds of things.
and something else that goes hand in hand with spells is remnants.
Yep.
That's these little tentacle things. They're really good when you're spell casting. So some people don't spell cast at all. So then it's actually nice if you are an investigator that doesn't spell cast to give your remnants that you receive to other investigators, trade it over to them so that they can use it. Because it does help you in some of the spells.
Yeah, because on the bottom of the spell, you've got a brain icon which tells you how much sanity you have to lose to cast the spell. But instead of losing sanity, if you've got a remnant, like she was saying, you can spend a remnant in place of that sanity. So that helps if you go and get a bunch of those. You don't lose any sanity, you end up just using your remnants to stave off, because some of these are 2, some of these are 1. It all depends on the spell, like the strength of the spell that you're casting.
And the spells are very effective, but they can also really diminish your sanity or sometimes your health as well. So it's good to use a remnant wherever you can. And remnants can be obtained by killing certain monsters as well. We can move on to the monster deck now, and we can show you about that.
So the monster deck here, you've got your monsters here, which again is laid out on the back side of your Ancient One card or your scenario setup sheet. It will tell you which monsters you have to pull out for this scenario Echoes of the Deep. And so it ends up building you a monster, what they call a monster deck. You won't use all of these monsters, you only pull out certain ones for each scenario that you're playing. And so you'd pull out, those ones. I would recommend alphabetizing these. That's what I've done, because it's easier to search through and find the ones they're asking you to get, besides just kind of going through and seeing if you find it. If you alphabetize these, and then it's a lot easier to look through and go, okay, I need to find this monster and I can go find it. So then you create that monster deck, and then once you've created that monster deck, you get this. I think this came in one of the expansions, and I don't remember which one.
That's why it's good to get all the expansions, because then you'll have so many more cards and things that you can add to your regular
deck. Because this is like holds your monster deck up. Before when we didn't have the expansion that had this in it, we just had to lay it on the table, which is perfectly fine as well. But we do like having the monster deck here. So it would go in there, and then when it says a monster spawns, you would grab the back card, and then that monster would spawn on a space, and then when it's defeated, it goes on top of the monster deck. So I have it alphabetized, so I'm going to put it back, because that'll drive me nuts if it's not alphabetized. And so like I said, you go through and you pick out which monsters you need based on the scenario sheet and what it tells you to get. And you can sometimes have to add monsters along the way. So depending on your codex here that you have out in that particular one that you're involving. So.
And the monster will actually, on its card, it will show the remnant symbol. So if you defeat that monster, then that means that you get a remnant on the actual card. It will show you. You can get that as basically a winning.
So also on here it tells you how much health it has, the strength modifier, which is when you go to defeat this, so it's a strength -1 for this Abyssal Servant. So if your strength is 4, you only get to roll 3 dice instead. And then it's got observation -2, which is if you're trying to escape or avoid this monster, then you would do your observation. So if you have 2 observation -2, you can't go to 0, so you roll just 1 dice. But if you had 3, you would go down to 1 dice as well. So that's what that does. It tells you how many dice you have to take away in order to do certain aspects of this. So that's how the monster cards work.
And I would recommend, as you're attacking the monster, just keep tabs on how much health it has left by maybe just putting on his actual card on the tile.
He's got 4 health.
So just place it on his card so that you know, okay, so he's already taken 1 health away, so he's got 3 more left to go. That way you know exactly how much health is left, and how much more you need to deal to him. Because it can get quite tricky later on if you've got like 6 or 7 monsters on the board. You can't remember everybody's health.
Mm-hmm.
So it just makes it easier that way.
Yeah, that's one way we use to keep track of it. So
yeah, and we'll also tell you the monster's strength and everything on there.
Yep. After that, I think we've gone through all of the cards in the game so far. Yeah, you got anomalies depending on, again, the scenario sheet. You may end up with an anomaly, say, when you reach 4 doom in a neighborhood. It will tell you to put an anomaly in, and so you end up putting that in the middle of the neighborhood. And then you have to do an anomaly card, which, again, the scenario sheet will tell you which one, because there's a couple of different ones. There's thresholds here, and then you've got these portal ones. There's all kinds of different cards here, guys, that you can choose, or that you don't get to choose. The scenario sheet tells you which one to use. We'll kind of go into that again during a setup, when we actually do a setup of a game.
I think lastly as well we have the terror.
Terror, yep.
Yeah. So we have these little terror icons.
Look like a little, almost like a cow skull with horns on it. So.
And that's normally in some of the mysteries, the doom gets like so out of control, and then basically instead of putting an anomaly, you would have terror that spreads throughout. So what happens with terror, if you're in an area that's got a lot of terror, you got to take care of the terror first by doing a terror card encounter during the encounter phase, to take care of that first before you can do a regular encounter. And we will talk about the different phases of the game when we go through the actual gameplay portion of this, to help you understand it better.
Yep. And I think the last thing we didn't talk about was on the other side of the Doom tokens is the clue. So whenever you draw a clue token from the Mythos Cup, you would grab the front card and it would tell you on Innsmouth, so you'd place it in the center there, and then that card would go into this one here, which is your encounter deck. You would choose the top 2 of Riverside. If we were to do it on Riverside, you would draw the Riverside card here. You would shuffle these 3 cards and try to mix it up as best you can. Don't try to think of where you put it and try to get it on top. Just randomly do it. And then you stick it back on top. And so now you've got 1 of 3 chances to drawing the clue.
Yes.
And sometimes you need 3 clues on the scenario sheet to move forward in the codex. So that's how you end up moving forward. So you have to do clues and basically stay in that neighborhood until you end up with the clue.
And some investigators as well that you choose have the ability to get clues a lot easier. So it is sometimes good if you're playing, say, 2 characters, to have one that does clues really well and one that can really help with either helping other investigators regain health, or helping them with attacking monsters.
Yes.
So it is really important to try and choose your investigators wisely, so they can really help you throughout the game.
Yep. I think
that's all of it.
That covers a good part of the basic concept of the game.
Yes.
And all of the components of the game. Again, we have a little bit more than usual because we have the expansions.
Yes.
In the base game, you're not going to have remnants aren't part of the base. No, they are part of the base game. Terror was not part of the base game, and certain aspects of it, certain other things weren't part of the base game as well. But
and
if
also with each game, you get more investigators.
Yeah.
Because you start
each
out
expansion,
with,
yeah.
Yes. because you normally just start out with a few investigators. It's
Yep.
not that many, so it is good to get the other expansions so you have more options for different mysteries. You also get different ancient ones for
Yeah.
the different expansions, which is nice as well because then you don't run out of mysteries so quickly.
Yep.
But trust me, it does take quite a bit of time, quite a bit of different tries to actually win a game.
Oh yeah, we've played probably a dozen games
And
of
it's not because
Arkham.
we're bad. It's
We've
just
won once or twice.
We've once.
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 Yeah, with Arkham Horror, we've won once out of like 12 attempts.
And it's not just this game, it's like the other games as well.
Yes.
Like Mansions, Eldritch. Arkham is just overall, like Eldritch and Arkham and
The
Mansions.
HP Lovecraft games
Lovecraft
are,
series is just really
they're hard.
You really have to strategize and think. And even if you do that, sometimes right at the end, there will be a curveball thrown your way.
Oh yeah.
And then there's no way to avoid it, and you just lose. Even when you think you're that close, you can
Yeah.
literally taste victory. And
You're like salivating, going, I'm almost there.
Yes.
I've got it, and then one more doom gets placed on, and everything just goes.
falls apart, and it does happen
Yeah.
very often. So
Oh, it happens
it
so
will
much.
frustrate you, but it will kind of, in a way, motivate
Yes.
you to just keep trying and keep doing it.
Yeah,
again.
because I mean, like I said, we've lost 11 out of the 12 times, but we still love playing the game because we like a challenge. It challenges us and it causes us to think,
Yeah,
and it's a
it
lot of
really
fun for
challenges
us
you.
because we're working together. That's why, like I said, we do it for our date nights. You know, for any of you couples out there that are looking for something to do together, that you don't have to go to the bar or whatever if you're not out to the bar scene or whatever. This is something that you can do at home that we love doing because we get to talk, we get to play, we laugh,
You
we
strategize together.
we strategize.
And you also, with these games, you work as a team.
Yep.
So it's very important to make sure that you help your team members. It's not like an
Yeah.
individual game. So it's really nice in that way as well because you get to strategize together and
Yeah.
do the challenges together as a team. And it's also good as a family to play this. I would say
Yeah.
for teenagers, preteens, for them like just getting into strategy games.
Yep.
This is really fun to do as a family as well.
Or if you have a mature, older child, such as 9, 10, we have a very mature 10-year-old daughter. She loves this game since we showed her how to play recently.
She really adores it.
Yeah, and she will probably be joining us from now and then, playing a game maybe because she loves the game so much. And our son also took to some of them he didn't like so much, but some of the others he did. But he did enjoy playing with us as well. We do have family time together where we play board games and other types of games and stuff. So we've got those aspects of things. So you can play with your kids as well. So
I think that's most of it
Yeah.
for the components of the game and the different cards and everything.
Yep.
You do also get the rule books with it, which I would highly suggest throughout the game. Go through the rule book as much as possible
Yep.
because it can get confusing sometimes on some of these cards where you're like, okay, we don't really understand what does
Yeah.
that mean here. So I would recommend going through the rule books.
Yep.
Sometimes we even had to Google
Yeah.
just to check, okay, are we reading this correctly?
Yep.
But eventually you get the hang of it and everything. It's just once if you're new
Yeah.
getting into it, I would recommend reading the rule book quite a bit.
I would agree with that. And like I said, I usually have them right here on my bench next to me, and I'll be shuffling through it and going, oh, we're doing this wrong, and then we'll have to go back and fix it.
Yes.
Because the rules do get complicated and hard to understand at times. So, but I thank you guys for joining us for this initial video that we're doing, and also the initial talk about Arkham Horror and the components of the game. If you did like this video, give us a thumbs up to help the YouTube algorithm get it to more people, and subscribe, and also click that bell
Notification as well.
to get notified when we post new videos, because the next one will be setup. We'll be setting up a game
And then also playing a game.
with Cthulhu, and then we will play the game after that setup video. So it's a series of videos that we're going to do for Arkham Horror to start. But thank you all for joining us.
And we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we hope that you will enjoy our channel going forward as well.
Yep. So come along for our journey as we go through the nightmares in the dice realm.
Thank you. Bye all.